On this episode of Law Weekly, we talk to a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Olisa Agbakoba, on the shortcomings of INEC in the last elections, the gaps in the Electoral Act, issues of the rule of law, and more. Also showing on the program, highlights from the legal year ceremony of the Lagos Judiciary, plus our recap of the top trending stories from the courtroom. Hello and welcome to the program. I am Shola Shieli. Reactions continue to trail the September 6 judgment of the Presidential Election Tribunal and especially the role of INEC. Former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Olisa Agbakoba, insists that INEC needs to be unbundled for it to perform better. But first, I started by asking his views on the outcome of the Presidential Tribunal judgment and the lessons from the whole electoral process. Well,
as you know, I'm a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, and part of the ethos in the bar is not to discuss cases on television. And let me also take this opportunity to now beg TV stations to stop converting their studios to courtrooms. It's infra-dig. So having said that, no, I cannot comment on the structure of the case, the presentation of the case, the judgments delivered. I know there was a lot of hard work on all sides, so I applaud all of the actors. But I think what comes out as a central issue, and on all sides, whether it's the petitioner or the respondent or even from the judge's comments, is the total failure of the institution of INEC. I repeat my call that the gale of sacks that are now on in Nigeria should be visited upon INEC. There's no reason why the professor, who is the head of INEC, should be there. He's completely failed. We can't trust him on the basis of his reputation that he wants to see a very well conducted election. He said they have noticed that the big problem is when the votes are being transmitted manually for collation. So, according to INEC and my friend Festus Okoye, the BVAS and IRF will eliminate all of that. So it is surprising that the same INEC that gave us the impression that this is mandatory now take advantage of the fact that the Constitution and the Electoral Act gives them a discretion. So in the conduct of the elections, they've not switched. They told parties shall be on one leg. Now they've switched. Let's see what the Supreme Court makes of it. But what that actually implies is we need to bring down the structure of INEC. We need to review exactly what is it they're supposed to do. And I've always said that INEC is too huge. They do far too many things. In my view, they should just be a referee and nothing more. So if the lesson of all this is that the National Assembly will engage in a truly transformative legal framework for elections, then that will be the benefit. But for now, INEC gets no marks at all from me. The last National Assembly, the 9th National Assembly, misdirected us. They misled us to think that IREV and the BVAX had the legal framework it had, but now we see that it doesn't. So what would happen to the forthcoming elections in Ondo, Bayelsa, and elsewhere? So what rules will INEC use? We don't know. They can change. If they've used Rule A and they go to the tribunal and find that they need to now say, oh, no, we didn't use Rule A, we use Rule B. What's the position? So we need to be very clear. What's the legal framework for conducting elections? This is the worst election in Nigeria's history because INEC just kept changing the rules.
But how do you propose that we unbundle INEC? Because in some of the election petition cases, we've seen that INEC was even objecting to some of the documents that came from its custody. And people have said that this practice of making INEC a respondent in the election petition such that they will now come to court to defend whatever it is they have done, it's causing a lot of issues.
No, exactly. In the Ways panel, again, we looked at this and we said INEC has no business being an active respondent. Whether it's a notified party or whatever title you gave it to come to court, but INEC's business is just to present the results and go away. It's not for them to say, here are the results, and then to defend it. role is just to tell us what you presented. We see it and we review it against the law. So if you did the elections in Onitsha, here are the results, then that's it. It is for the lawyers and the judges to make of those results what they want to make of it for the courts to decide. So INEC's rule needs to be very minimal, very, very minimal.
This issue about BVAS and IREV that you've alluded to, the National Assembly making us believe that there's a legal framework for it, whereas there was none. How do we address it going forward?
That's what can we do except to tighten it? Now that we know we've been taken for a ride, I also felt I was taken for a ride. We all need to be conscious. We all need to be more engaged in what the National Assembly is doing. We shouldn't just take it for granted that what they say is true. Because what they told us clearly was that they were setting up a legal framework for electronic voting. Now, that is not true. So I think all Nigerians, particularly those NGOs that work in, the electoral reform process, should take, some pains to know what it is that is being, worked on at the legislative level.
Away from election petitions, let's talk about the rule of law. Every government has come into power listing the rule of law as one of its major themes, but we don't seem to be getting it right. What do you think should be the rule of law agenda of this administration?
Well, rule of law is a notion, it's a concept that cannot be efficacious unless it is applied by people who understand what it means. So I go to Professor Nwabeze's doctrine of limited government. So when government understands that it is limited, so the president knows that I can't do this, and therefore I won't because there's no law, then that's the rule of law. But if the president knows that I can't do this, but I will do it and get away with it anyway, then there's no rule of law. And I think all through the administration of President Buhari, in respect in particular of foreign monies that were borrowing, they would borrow and come and ask for permission from the National Assembly. So at the end of the day, it's the leaders, it's the political people who interpret the rule of law to suit themselves. For instance, President Buhari said that the rule of law is subservient to national security. So that's his own interpretation. But I think there's only one interpretation. The rule of law stands above all of us and all of us below it. That's what the rule of law is. Without rule of law, you can't grow. You can't, because there's no rule of law. Rule of law means that you cannot change the law. You cannot break it and then say, I didn't know. It stands. It keeps you, like Mwabeze, it keeps you in check. That's what it does. And it creates equality. Everybody's equal. You don't have one man here, one man here. That's the rule of law. That's going to be a very difficult concept if your thinking is that, does it apply in Nigeria? And I can tell you it will take a long time.
But how can we get there?
Development. No poverty, strong opposition, strong opposition parties, multi-partyism, so strong civil society, strong media. What pushed Boris Johnson to resign would not push anybody here to resign, because they were feeling stressed and tired and he had a cup of coffee or tea or Coke. No. Rule of law is a big notion. I once gave a presentation to the ministerial retreat and I told them, rule of law? We don't know what it means. Rule of law means that if you're a minister and you come to the traffic lights, you stop. That's what it means. It means that you apply what the law says. It means that you obey what the judges say. So if the judges make a decision against government, immediately government applies it.
Apart from the rule of law, which you've talked about, what do you think should be the justice sector agenda of the administration?
I think there's going to be an exciting opportunity for the new Attorney General to unfold his agenda, meet the relevant stakeholders in the justice sector and ask them what the concerns are. For me personally, I have a couple of major concerns. First of all, I'd like for the Attorney General to understand that his role is not just a law and order public officer. It's also a law and development. So he has to have a 360 degrees, view of his job. So on the criminal justice side, I think we need to see the creation of a national prosecution agency, and not just an administrative office of the DPP. We need to see also the creation of office of federal prosecutors. Everything is bunched around Abuja. It needs to diversify so that, criminal justice can move. Federal prosecutors, maybe zonal levels. We need to see district attorneys so that cases don't just end up on the table of the AGF. I wonder how an AGF can cope supervising the entire Nigeria. We need institutions for that. We need to also have a review of speed of justice. The pace of justice is too slow. Then this confusion between federal causes and state causes. I don't want to see a case crawling from Apapa on land to Supreme Court. So we need to be clear about the distinction between state causes and federal causes. And I urge those who are now there to really see what they can do about it.
Apart from the slow speed of justice, another thing that is confronting the integrity is the belief that our judges are corrupt. Do you believe that our judges are corrupt?
Well, I don't have the evidence. I hear that a lot. I don't have the evidence. But is it necessary to ask that question and answer it? I don't think so. It is necessary to ask the question, do we have a structure of a judiciary that enables the judge to do his work? Because if you don't have that, then you will have side effects, and corruption might be one of them. Laziness may be another one. Incompetence of judges may be another one. So what I think is best to do is to review the entire justice framework and to ask a question. How old exactly is this justice framework? Many people don't know. It's probably 1875, the 1875 Administration of Justice Act that created the high court system in the UK and all that. I think that's where we draw our current, with some modification, but our current judicial process from. That's too old. It's completely outdated. So I think that the philosophical question here is to say, when the cause ceases to have effect, so when the cause of slow justice ceases to have effect, then the effect ceases. So all this issue of corruption, late sitting, overcrowded dockets and all that, it will go. If you have a sound system. In England, the Supreme Court sits in a small room with square tables. No one is wearing any of those wigs. I think the wigs and gowns and all the paraphernalia of the old justice system ought to be thrown out of the window. Because it's a conversation. They brought justice down to the level of everybody. So the president of the Supreme Court sits, and around the table sit the lawyers, and they converse. But if we are still sitting here on thrones, where the Supreme Court is up there, and the Court of Appeal justices are also up there, and you are down here. So I would say a complete revamp of the system is what is required to cleanse the mess. So it's not necessary to say, oh, judges are corrupt. I remember one judge who, made an appeal in respect of his mom who had kidney issues and was dying. And you call that corruption? I don't think so. The man has no money. So if a judge is very badly paid, in England, I think the average judge might be paid about £450,000 a year. He has no business to look for, call a friend here. Can you give me something? Because he's got enough. But if our judges here are earning an average, but I don't even know. I can't really recall what they earn. 9 million, 10, 12 million a year. Then there's a foundation laid for all kinds of things to happen, which you have mentioned.
Thanks for staying tuned. We turn our attention now to the ceremonies to usher in a new legal year. At the Court of Appeal, the ceremony to kickstart the new legal year held on Monday, September 25th. The president of the court, Justice Monica Dongbe-Mensen, led other justices of the court in the ceremony. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, former CJNs, retired justices, judges of other courts, senior advocates, other lawyers, and invited guests were also present at the event. The president of the court decried the cost and negative effects of electoral litigation.
The tax and negative effect of electoral litigation is becoming worrisome. It is becoming economically alarming that the entire Nigerian judicial system is inundated with electoral litigation and adjudication almost all the year round. It is a matter of concern that a large number of judges of the trial court have been engaged for 6 months in the exclusive management of electoral cases. The implication is that commercial matters and other matters are tied down in our courts. Industrial disputes and land matters, which, when determined in good time, could create jobs and release cash flow into the economy, are tied down in court registries. I call on statisticians to calculate, tabulate, and publish the economic costs of these details and the benefit we lose in terms of time, in fact, including holidays. Democracy is beautiful. It is the way to go. However, politicians should, in the interest of our national economic development, imbibe the spirit of good sportsmanship. They should please pay more attention to internal democracy and exercise the spirit of loyalty to a cause which necessarily entails letting go in the interest of discipline and internal harmony. We must all remember that we hold the balance between chaos and order. We must make sacrifices. We must let go if it doesn't go our way.
In Lagos, Thanksgiving services were held simultaneously at the Cathedral Church of Christ Marina and the Central Mosque on Lagos Island to kickstart the new legal year. The governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, joined judges of the court, magistrates, retired judges, senior advocates, other lawyers, Lagos State government officials, religious and traditional leaders, among others, in the Thanksgiving service at the church. In his speech, he called for continued collaboration between the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary to ensure that the state continues to grow in leaps and bounds. He also reiterated his administration's commitment to the welfare of judicial officers and to the completion of all the ongoing court projects across the state.
I want to pledge that on our part as the executive, the continued support and the cooperation of the entire executive arm, especially at ensuring that we give to you a befitting and conducive work environment for the judicial arm should certainly be taken for granted. We'll do everything that is within our powers to continue to ensure that that environment is conducive and will continue to help you discharge your responsibility without fear or favor. Our commitment to delivering a befitting and well-equipped edifices to replace all of the things that have happened in the judicial system, you all know it too well. We've given commitments to finish the TAPA courts, the GIC, Taylor Magistrate Courts, and also to ensure that our magistracy, all of the things that you are asking for privately, that we do it publicly and much more for you.
At the Lagos Central Mosque, the Chief Judge of Lagos, Justice Kazim Alugba, led other justices of the Muslim faith, magistrates, senior advocates, lawyers, and other invited guests at the Thanksgiving service. In his address to the gathering, Justice Alugba expressed his concerns regarding the deteriorating moral values in the country and attributed a significant portion of the responsibility to poor parental guidance.
If all of us have ceased and look inwards, we will be able to find faults in ourselves or give credit to ourselves as what part we have played in our respective
After the Thanksgiving service, everyone made their way to the Lagos High Court sitting in Osborne Foreshore, Ikoyi, for the inspection of the ceremonial guard of honor by the Chief Judge. And just before we go, let's quickly do a recap of some of the top trending stories from the courtrooms.
We begin with the report that the Supreme Court has fixed October the 23rd for judgment in a suit filed by a former federal lawmaker, Senator Smart Adeyemi, challenging the conduct of the Kogi State governorship primary of the All Progressives Congress, APC. Senator Adeyemi is challenging the validity of the election, which produced Mr. Usman Ododo as the party's flag bearer for the November 11 governorship election. While adopting his final address, his counsel, Mr. Musbao Adetumbi, argued that the primary election of April 14 was conducted in gross violation of Section 84 of the Electoral Act 2022. The same Supreme Court has affirmed Mr. Athan Achonu as the Labour Party governorship candidate for the November 11, 2023 governorship election in Imo State after a participant in the primaries, Mr. Basil Maduka, objected to his candidature at both the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal. The justices of the Supreme Court struck out the matter and determined that Mr. Achonu won the legally conducted primaries by the lawful leadership of the party under Mr. Julius Saburi of the Labour Party and witnessed by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. And staying with election petitions, the tribunals have delivered their judgments in various governorship seats across the state. The Ebonyi State Governorship Election Tribunal, sitting in Abuja, has affirmed the victory of Governor Francis Nwifuru of the All Progressives Congress in the March 18, 2023 governorship election in the state. A three-member panel tribunal headed by Justice Lekan Gumoye dismissed the petitions of the candidate of the All Progressives Grand Alliance APGA, Mr. Bernard Odo, and that of the People's Democratic Party PDP candidate, Mr. Ifeanyi Odi, for lacking in merit. The petitioners had approached the tribunal to nullify the election of the APC candidate on the grounds that the governor was not qualified to contest the election, neither did he score the highest lawful votes to be declared winner of the election. In Kaduna, the State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal also dismissed the petition filed by the People's Democratic Party PDP and its candidate in the 2023 election, Isa Ashiru, against the victory of Governor Uba Sani of the APC for lacking in merit. In a dissenting judgment of 2-1 delivered on Thursday, a three-member panel headed by Justice Victor Oviawe dismissed the petition on the grounds that the pre-hearing notice was filed out of the stipulated time and therefore deemed to be abandoned by the petitioners. However, delivering judgment on the substantive petition, the tribunal, in a dissenting decision of 2-1, ruled for a supplementary election in 22 polling units in 4 local government areas of Kaduna State within 90 days. In Gombe, the Governorship Petition Tribunal Court, presided over by Justice Belgore, has upheld the election and return of Governor Inuwa Yahaya in the March 18, 2023 elections. In separate petitions filed by the PDP and African Democratic Congress, ADC, the petitioners asked the court to disqualify the governorship elections, set aside the certificate of return issued to Governor Inuwa, and conduct fresh elections on the grounds of corrupt practices, non-qualification, vote buying, amongst other election irregularities cited. But the court disagreed with the petitioners and upheld the elections. And we round off in Lagos, where the State Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal has also upheld the re-election of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. The three-man panel, in its unanimous decision, dismissed the 2 petitions filed by the PDP and its governorship candidate, Olajide Adediran, and that of the Labour Party, Gbadebo Rhodes Viver. The tribunal held that both petitions lacked merit.
And that's the program for today. If you missed any part of it, you can find it on past episodes on our YouTube channel. Do also give us feedback via any of our social media platforms. I'm Shola Shieli. Thank you for watching and see you next week.